Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host, coming to you from Cranberry Country here in Tomah, Wisconsin. I'm at the, if you don't know where Tomah is, it's where I-94 and I-90 split. I'm at the, excuse me, I'm at the Quick Trip on McCoy Boulevard, so that's like US 12, Wisconsin 21, it's exit. It's the second exit after you peel off and get on 94 West after the road split. And if you've never been here, this place always has parking. I would even guess that if there was a blizzard, there would be parking here, because this facility is easily bigger than like prime Salt Lake City terminal. There's zero doubt in my mind. If you've been here, you know what I'm talking about. It's just like there's trucks around the perimeter, but not even all those spots are filled, and you could host like a 10-court 3-on-3 tournament at this place if you wanted to. It's just huge. Okay, so that's it for now on what I'm up to, because I just want to get into this. So some of you may have already seen the video, many of you probably have, from Friday's Prime Safety meeting. And I've talked to a number of Prime drivers about what transpired at that meeting. And I got to tell you, I am struggling to find adjectives to describe how shocked I am. But I would say stunned, flabbergasted, gobsmacked at how freaking stupid executives at Prime are. And if you haven't watched this meeting, you might want to go watch it after this just to verify what I'm saying. But in that meeting, which ostensibly was to convince people that driver-facing cameras are going to just be okay, and they're just going to be used for training purposes, and and that Prime does not sever contracts or fire drivers who make mistakes. In order to support all of that, they came up with the most mind-boggling, stupid corporate communications I can think of in the past. I can't think of a company that I either advised when I was an attorney or worked for or heard of that stepped in crap as hard as Prime did. So let me just give you a few of the highlights. They had this driver panel where they had drivers who had done significantly serious things, like driving 84, 85 miles an hour, falsifying logs to the point of putting themselves on somebody else's logs knowingly, where people admitted to ignoring traffic control devices, purposely ignoring traffic control devices. And traffic control devices is anything like a red light, a stop sign, a yield sign, traffic lights, any of that. Those are traffic control devices. They stop traffic and they let traffic go. So I was just stunned that Dennis Davis would trot out these people that clearly were violating state and federal law. And by the way, the person who got their truck to go 84, they would have had to have shifted their truck into neutral. I don't know of any truck, because I had both Freightliner and a Peterbilt at Prime, that by itself, even on really steep hills, would go in excess of 80 miles an hour. I will admit that a couple of times, like out west, like Wyoming or whatever, I have touched 79. But 79, I think if you were at 79 for more than like 10 seconds, that's like a huge violation, supposedly a huge violation at prime. You know, and so I just cannot believe that Dennis Davis would allow anybody on the World Wide Web to admit in a company-sanctioned broadcast that they had violated all sorts of, state and federal laws, and that he would be like, see, we didn't even do anything. We didn't fire this guy. He's still here. And here's the thing. Like the one guy who admitted using his wife's logs, that's different, in my opinion, than just running out of time and, driving past your 11 hours because you just got to find a place to park. I mean, that's a conspiracy, right? It's a conspiracy to violate federal motor carrier law. And why do I say it's a conspiracy? Because two people were involved, right? His wife and him. That's a conspiracy to violate federal law. The other thing that's insane about trotting a guy like that out is Prime is basically saying, hey, FMCSA, hey, by the way, you should ding us on our CSA score because we not only have this guy admitting to this, you should come in and audit us, but we tolerate it. Like we're basically telling drivers right now that it's okay to do that. You won't get fired. Now, I'll say this. I don't know this guy, but what I've heard is he's in the cult. Like he's a card-carrying cult member, which tells me that there's a lot of favoritism at Prime. Like if you're a cult member, they'll keep you around. But if you're not, and by the way, you know that PTC, they say it stands for prime time, what is it? Prime time. I can't even remember what the C stands for. That doesn't stand for that. It stands for pass the Kool-Aid and praise the cult. Okay, that's what PTC stands for. It doesn't stand for prime time, whatever the C is. But so anyway, a cult member is like knowingly violating their logs, like on the regular, right? Because you can't make me believe that he only did it once. Okay, he's violating his logs on the regular, and he's admitting to disobeying traffic control devices, ignoring traffic control devices. So, I have never, and Dennis Davis, I think he thinks he's smarter. This is just a level of hubris and cockiness that is kind of mind-boggling. Because if you're the director of transportation or safety, or you're the general counsel at Tyson, and you see that, do you really think, yeah, we should give more business to Prime? Because here's something I don't think Chucklehead Dennis Davis or the general counsel at Prime realize. Amazon gets sued all the time when one of their contractors screws up and you see a truck that's slammed into a, busload of kids that's towing an Amazon trailer. And Amazon has gotten sued in addition to just because their trailer was involved. They've also gotten sued and taken to task by regulators because they've said, oh, well, when somebody has a bad accident, we sever their contract. But it turns out that's not true because they have repeat offenders. So if I'm Tyson, I'm Walmart, I'm some other JBS, you know, I'm some other big shipper, right? And I'd be like, wait a minute. They think this is funny. They think this is okay to say this. Because if you're hauling something for somebody, I know there's this conventional wisdom that the driver and the company bear all the responsibility. But, and I'm gonna tell you, you know, I'm gonna tell you from a lawyer's perspective, because I never did personal injury, but I worked in a PI firm when I was in law school. And there used to be these T-shirts when I was first in the military. It would say stuff like, kill them all, let God sort them out. Well, there's a corollary to that in the legal profession. And it is, when you're a plaintiff's attorney, sue everybody involved, and then let the defendants get themselves dismissed. Let them cross-complain against each other, right? Let them deal with each other. You sue everybody that you possibly can. So if I got a prime truck after this video has aired and that is carrying a Tyson load and wrecks, if I'm a plaintiff's attorney and I know about this video, I'm gonna be like, you know, Tyson was on notice that this carrier didn't care that much about the rules. Now, Dennis, because he's Dennis, he thinks this is going to show drivers that it's not going to harm anybody, that cameras are in the trucks. Well, let me just disabuse you of that notion. Nothing could be further from the truth. I've said in the past that I don't give a crap about the inward-facing cameras. But let me assure you, in no circumstance that I have been able to conjure up in my mind, in no circumstance is it favorable for the truck driver to have a camera. Because here's the reason for that. And you know, you'd think the general counsel at Prime would have been like, hey, you know, let me just make sure everybody understands this, at least Dennis Davis. It doesn't matter what a driver was doing. If they bag a stop sign and kill somebody, it does not matter that they were 10 and 2 with their eyes glued to the road. It doesn't matter. That's not how negligence works, right? There are elements to negligence, right? You have a duty, you breached that duty, you harmed somebody, right? And you know, there are some kind of damages, right? That's going to be the inquiry. It's not going to be, well, let's go to the videotape and you will see this person's eyes were glued to the road. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. If you're negligent, you're negligent. It doesn't matter how conscientious you were. It doesn't matter if you were drinking a cup of coffee, talking on your phone, and getting a back massage with your seatbelt off. Your negligent is negligent. So the camera is never going to help you. It's never going to help you. Even when you're doing nothing wrong, it won't help you. So here's the thing. They basically, as we would say in the Navy, put themselves on report with both the government and their customers. And, you know, Dennis Davis needs to shut his frickin' yap. Do not challenge plaintiffs' attorneys on discovery issues, because that is the stupidest. That's poking the bear. That's poking the bear. Prime has lost some huge lawsuits in the past. They're not the only trucking company, right? But don't poke the bear, because the plaintiffs' bar will get together, because they have meetings, annual meetings. They go to La Boca Chica during February. They go to San Diego during the summer. I used to go to all sorts of conferences. Lawyers get together and talk, right? They share notes. And when you have a national trucking company, lawyers from all over the country are going to be interested in this live that Prime did yesterday. And honestly, if Dennis Davis was was if he did that at a company I was advising, I would be like, you need to fire this guy and you need to take that video down. Not that it's not already too late. And then you need to disavow everything that was said. And I would fire everybody that was on that panel. You know, there's no statute of limitations on being a screw up. I would fire everybody. I would clean house, because that Prime has exposed themselves to huge problems on a going forward basis. And here's how it plays out, right? You get somebody from Prime Safety Department that's going to court and they're testifying, right? And here's where this log thing comes in. And I would advise you to Google Triton, Triton, logistics, and Virginia accident. Just use those Google terms. What you're going to find is a Triton driver killed some people down in Southeast Virginia. It was on 264. I don't know if it was in, Chesapeake or Portsmouth, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. I'm not sure exactly where, but it was down on 264. And by the way, WAVY TV, which is the local NBC or CBS affiliate, Channel 10, they've had a lot of articles about this. But the Triton driver basically told the cops, my company, when we run out of hours, the ELD provider that we use over in Moldova or wherever they are, they'll just create a phantom driver. And then what we're instructed to do is say that we dropped the phantom driver off, and now we're just running our 11-hour clock, even though there was no driver on board. Well, that's a conspiracy to violate federal law, but it's no different than if Prime has a track record. And by the way, we know this happens. It's just really stupid to say it in public. We now know Prime has a track record of knowing that drivers drive on other people's clocks, even though they tell you to keep your code a secret, right? We know that happens. Now, sometimes it happens accidentally. I had a trainee that inadvertently drove on my clock one time for about a half an hour. Happened once. I was talking to some other driver yesterday, and he said the same thing happened on his truck for about 10 minutes. They just didn't get it swapped right, because if you don't do it right, Qualcomm's a hard system to use sometimes, especially if you're not super familiar with it. So anyway, can you imagine a plaintiff's attorney going to whoever it is, Dennis Davis, or whatever person Prime sends to testify for the defense in a trial? So let me ask you this, Mr. Prime. Would you, the safety department at Prime or Prime itself, would you ever condone a driver knowingly driving on somebody else's logs and ignoring traffic control devices? What would happen if you had a driver that you knew they had done that? What would you do about it? And you know that, because if this is part of the facts in the case, you know that they're going to say, oh, well, we would fire them as soon as we found out. Oh, okay, so you would fire a driver that admitted to that, right? Yeah. Okay, can we introduce this YouTube into evidence, Your Honor? Yeah. It's from Prime, right? So it's authenticated. By the way, you know how when you forget to say that you you forget to go on duty because you fueled the reefer, and they call you in and tell you got to do the logs class, and then the logs lady's like, "These are legal records. You must have them complete and verified and done correctly. They're legal records." Let me tell you something about legal records. That's just bullshit, okay? Anything can be admitted in court that's authenticated. I can admit the definition of a word from Webster's dictionary if the judge allows it, and there is a carve out for that. I can you'd be surprised what can come into evidence, right? There are rules against hearsay, but there are like a butt ton of exceptions for hearsay. And yeah, those logs are legal records in that they can be admitted in court. But it's like nobody says, oh, well, you got to put these in like the Library of Congress or the National Archives. They're not, they're just your logs, okay? It's no different like under naval regulations, certain logs, not all logs that are kept on ships, but certain logs are legal records under U.S. law. But in any event, they're coming in, right? In a trial where, like in the Triton case. Sorry, I got something on my glasses here. So, again, I just can't believe that anybody, and you know, apparently, you know, like Rob Lowe was down there crying about stuff, about somebody, you know, friend he lost. That has nothing to do with cameras, right? There are millions of drivers that don't have, you know, driver-facing cameras that haven't killed Rob Lowe's friend or anybody for that matter. You know, all of this, and Steve Wutke, like, oh, we're not trying to like thin the herd here. Well, then why are you bringing it up, right? I don't know if they're trying to thin the herd, but all of this, you know, I used to call the safety meeting, I used to call it the pep rally, but I think I want to change that name to the driver disrespect hour, or however long it takes. The driver disrespect hour. Why? Because week after week after week after week, chuckleheads, corporate douchebags at Prime come down there, get on video, and tell drivers stuff that's absolute bullshit. And you know, a lot of the times, notwithstanding the people on their panel that were admitting to crimes, like 90% of the time, the smartest people in the room at that company are the drivers. Like, I know so many drivers that have college degrees and advanced degrees and have been successful in business, right? And have had other careers where they were successful. And these people at Prime, a lot of them have only worked at Prime. Like, they might have worked at like Winn-Dixie or something at some point in their life. But like, I read their bios. A lot of them that are in senior positions, they never went to college. And you know, you could say, well, they don't need to go to college. And that's true, except they're just not that smart either. It's okay to not go to college. There's lots of, I know a lot of people that are super bright that didn't go to college, but they're not as stupid as people that are running, you know, the executives at Prime. And I'm not bad mouthing Robert Lowe. Robert Lowe built a company, and you know, he and Steve Wutke built a company that has been pretty successful. But I think Prime at this point is kind of off the rails. And man, I am still just, it's just mind-boggling what they put out at that meeting yesterday. Just insane. And you know, I've heard other meetings where people said stuff that was just super unprofessional, just really made the company look like a bunch of frickin' Kmart bicycle mechanics. But this one, I gotta say, it takes the cake. And you know, and I'm all about being like, you know, owning your shit. You know, if you want to put cameras in a truck, then put them in the truck. Just say, hey, over the next year or so, we're going to be putting cameras in these trucks. We think it's beneficial, and we think it'll lower our insurance premiums. That's why we're doing it. You know, what can you say, right? That makes sense. But don't tell everybody that, you know, it's raining when you're just pissing on their leg. It's just really insulting. And I gotta say that you know, I said to somebody yesterday, I said, you know, and because we were talking about, I talked with at least 4 or 5 current or former drivers. I talked to 4 current drivers yesterday on the phone, and I think I talked to 1 driver, 2 drivers that used to be at Prime, And I gotta say that I just, it's like, I'm not usually speechless, but I feel like if this gets out, like the FMCSA, I think, is gonna come in and do an audit at Prime, and they'll deserve it. And I really think that saying stuff like this, because I know of a guy that ran a traffic control device. In the middle of the night, he bagged a 4-way like blinking light, got a ticket for it, and they fired him. So clearly there's favoritism. And if you've been around Prime for a while, you know that, right? But I just can't believe that they are setting themselves up like this. And if I was, and here's the other thing about all of these safety briefs and everything, lawyers have the technology to get the transcripts of those and then search the transcripts for certain key terms. That happens all the time in discovery. So, Dennis Davis is going to I think Prime's going to find out the hard way that this was a bad plan. And, I don't think anybody will get fired, because as long as they're card-carrying members of the cult, they can do whatever they want. But anyway, take a second to watch it. It's crazy. It's just crazy. Both from just looking as a truck driver, but also as an attorney, I'm like, these guys are dumber. They're more stupid than I really had given them credit for. I thought there was a lot of people there that, I thought, okay. And and I said something to a driver the other day. I said, organizations like Prime, they get big enough where there's this inertia where enough things go right that all the screw-ups, right, all the service failures, just other stuff that goes on is kind of glossed over by the, super majority of things going correctly. But it's not because of the people at the top of the food chain. It's because of the worker bees. And when an organization starts losing its way, like this was the antithesis of a safety meeting. And I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but I'm still just like, it's like when something bad happens and you're just like, it takes a while to get your head around it. That's what's going on in my head right now. I'm just like, holy crap, And it was funny because yesterday I was driving and my phone just started blowing up. Like I stopped and I had like 35 texts. And I was like, holy crap, man. Like, I honestly thought one of two things had happened because it was a text group with drivers. I thought either Rob Lowe passed away or Trump passed away, or that something that big, and it was about this safety meeting. So that'll give you an idea of what like a lot of people think. And yeah, anyway, that's all I got. I'm gonna deliver here at Walmart in the morning here in Toma, and then I gotta run a trailer to one of our terminals because it needs work, and then I'll probably get back on the road because my truck needs to get some work done on it too. So I found a few issues with it since I've had it. So but yeah, this truck, because I tested it, but then I tested it the other day, but I didn't give it enough time. But it actually will do, when it feels like it, it'll do 74. Because I was doing 74 in both Ohio, on the Ohio Turnpike today, and also in Wisconsin. And I know that's speeding. It's 4 miles over. My speedometer said 74. It might, You know, like my other Peterbilt, if it, whatever it said, it was going a mile slower. But yeah, 73, 74, it just kind of like floats in that region when I have the cruise set at 74. But I think on the pedal it actually is only good for 70. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes when you're, you know, there's a lot of traffic. And by the way, it is unseasonably warm here in western Wisconsin today. It's like pushing 90. But anyway, be safe and don't admit to stuff on social media. I mean, I just admitted to speeding, but there's nothing they can really do about that. But man, some of this stuff, you just shouldn't be saying that. So anyway, I will talk to you soon. Bye.